So this is Meredith Miller. She rides for TIBCO and Giant Strawberry Farms.
California Giant Strawberry Farms.
California Giant Strawberry Farms. Thanks for
Yep.
correcting me. So the first question I have is kind of silly. If you had to answer this question, all I want for the holidays is...
To rewind and not have a broken hand.
That's funny. What happened? Might as well go right there then. What happened to your hand?
A couple weekends ago, I was racing out in Providence, Rhode Island, and it was a Saturday race. We were just about to complete the 4th of 5 laps, and we were on this just slightly off-camber section, you know, no big deal, it wasn't a sketchy section at all, and I clipped a pedal and just went flying, and I, kind of went down on my left side, my bike kicked out from me, on my right side, and I think it stretched my fingers, or pushed my fingers in a way that it broke my 3rd and 4th metacarpals. And it was later that somebody pointed out that there was a root in that section that I had never seen in the previous laps. So I think that's what I clipped, was the root. But so I broke my 3rd and 4th metacarpals and ended up having surgery a week ago today.
I saw the picture on Twitter. It was kind of gnarly.
Yeah, so I have 6 pins, 6 screws in my hand now.
Well, you're a super pro, and so what we want to ask you about is road cycling, cyclocross. Where does your passion lie? I mean, where does the scale tilt towards what side?
I'd say it's definitely tilting towards the cyclocross side. That's not to take away, from what I've been doing on the road at all, by any means. It's just that I have been racing on the road for 14 years. This is just my 5th season racing cyclocross, so it's just something that's a little bit more fresh and new and challenging to me. It also presents different opportunities for me to be a little bit more selfish, which I don't know how you want to take that, but on the road side of things, I've been a domestique for pretty much my entire career, and which I get total satisfaction out of that. But then with cross being more of an individual kind of part of cycling, at the end of the day, my results are because I either had a good day or I had a bad day. It doesn't depend on anybody else. So I get obviously some satisfaction from that as well.
What has your biggest accomplishment came from? Is it been on the cyclocross series, or is it in the road? I mean, what would you say is important in your career?
It's been both, I'd have to say, because because of what I've done on the road in the last 14 years, it's been amazing, the places I've been, the places I've gotten to race, the people I've met, and the teams that I've been a part of. When I was racing full-time in Denmark, and I was part of Team Sats, and we had the 2-time world champion Suzanne Lungskog on the team, racing for her, side by side for her, working for her, and Anita Valen, Rochelle Gilmore, some, elite riders like that, some of the best in the world. That's been pretty significant. And then coming back to the U.S. and racing with Team Lipton for Kristen Armstrong, I mean, wow, what an inspiration there, And seeing from the inside what it takes for a person like Kristen to be so dedicated and committed that, she goes and wins gold medals at the Olympics, and is a world champion. And then for me, my biggest result for myself was in 2009, winning the national championships. So huge. That's my biggest accolade personally on the road side of things. And then for cross, I've won more races in cross than I ever have probably in the 14 years that I've been racing.
That's a good feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think getting a little bit more recognition through cross, because you're not hidden, by other teammates who are the ones getting the results and stuff. And, have definitely made a lot of really strong connections and relationships with different sponsors and brands in the sport. So I get different things out of both road and cyclocross.
That's cool. Now, will we see you in Louisville? That's where the championships are. I mean, is that hand going to hold you back, or will you be there?
I hope not. I mean, my plan is to be back. I won't be in Louisville for the USGP coming up in November, That's pretty much out of the question. But, I hope to be back racing by the end of November, and that should give me enough time to hopefully still qualify to be at Worlds, at the first weekend of February.
Awesome. That's great information. We hope to see you out there. Tell me about how these pro sprint lead-outs work in a women's peloton with 5 laps to go, like in a criterium. What is the conversation in the peloton like?
You mean amongst the teammates?
Yeah.
My teams?
Yeah, like how do you guys get organized?
Well, of course, before a race, we, have designated the team leader. And sometimes you go into races, whether it be a crit or a road race, that's going to have a flat finish, and you have several riders who are capable of winning that sprint. So, there's definitely going to be communication throughout the race. Okay, who's feeling it today? Maybe you say one sprinter is going to go for preems or something like that. Another sprinter you're saving for the finish. Right. So that's something you have to communicate amongst each other throughout the race. And then as the race winds down and you have 5 laps to go, that's when everybody starts to assemble on the front of the peloton, and you have to communicate, you have to follow your teammates' wheels, you have to trust in each other that, let's say that I'm the first lead out person and everybody's lined up behind me, they have to count on me to be able to get into this position as the laps wind down, and be confident that I'm going to get them in position so that we're the ones on the front, and we're not the ones chasing another team's train.
Because you're very good at that.
Yeah, so there's definitely a lot of communication from behind, moving forward. So the sprinter in the back has to be communicating. It's got to be faster, it's got to be slower, you've got to move right, you've got to move left so that you're avoiding the swarm coming up, so that, you're opening up the door so that she can squeeze through and doesn't, lose a wheel, something like that. So there's definitely a lot of communication coming from the back moving forward. So typically that would be from the sprinter or the gatekeeper, who's the one that's on the sprinter's wheel, keeping her protected. Everything's kind of moving forward as far as what needs to be done on the front.
Right. What advice would you have for a young female that wants to follow in your footsteps?
I think the biggest thing is you can't be afraid to ask questions. It's, in sport, in life, in politics, whatever kind of field you're in, I think it's really all about who you know and networking. So you can't be afraid to get in touch with people and ask questions and look for advice. And, I think that within cycling, most people are pretty open, and I enjoy the fact that people, young females, young women will come to me and ask me advice about teams and ask me to help get them in contact with other teams. And, I'm always happy to say, hey, use my name as a recommendation and, let this person know that we've talked and whatever. And then don't be afraid to take risks. That's, I think, probably one of the biggest things that I get frustrated with in a race is that people, become a little bit complacent with maybe finishing in the top 30 and not really doing anything in a race rather than going out and kind of putting their neck on the line and hand up and saying, hey, I'm here to race my bike. I might get dropped at the end of the day, or I might cross the line in 50th place, but I'm going to put my neck on the line and I'm going to show you what I'm made of. I'm going to show you that I'm not afraid to take some chances and take some risks. And, the first 5-6 times out of 10, it might not work. And then eventually you're going to get that result. And then that gives you the confidence to keep doing it over and over until you're winning races on a regular basis.
Well, with that being said, what are the most pivotal moments in your career that you learned from to get you to where you are?
I think for me, part of it was circumstance and luck, because I, in 2000, at the end of 2002 is when I moved to Denmark with my husband, because he was doing some studies over there, and that's when I got to race full-time in Europe, and that's kind of really when my eyes were open to the sport and became aware that it could become a career. I'd kind of gotten my feet wet with it some when I lived in California before moving to Denmark, and realized wow, people really do this full time. I had no idea, and then moved to Denmark and was given that opportunity. And that's when I was determined to make this my career, and so I raced in Europe for 3 years full time and learned a tremendous amount from being over there. And at first, just getting my butt kicked, and then like I said, realizing that okay, you've got to step up and take some chances and some risks if you want to get anywhere in the sport.
What kind of what's the question I'm looking for? What did you lose out on by making the choice to become a pro bike rider? I mean, you had to make choices. Did you have the right balance in life? Because you must have had a lot of discipline, because being a girl that's been in the sport for a long time, I mean, you weren't at the clubs and at the bar and all of that. So, I mean, you had to definitely make some choices. Do you feel like you were, for a younger person getting in the sport, I mean, where does their head need to be to get to where you're at?
Well, yeah, it's a hard sport for sure, and it's definitely a selfish sport in the sense that you have to say no a lot to your friends and to going out, and it's like, no, well, I could come over for dinner tonight, but I'm not going to have, I'm not going to drink because I got to get up and go to a race the next day, or I've got to go train hard or something like that. And it's hard for people who are outside of the sport to understand that mentality. So you definitely make a lot of sacrifices along the way, and having to turn down a lot of opportunities that, you see other people going on holiday. And I mean, I've traveled all over the world, but I've been to places as an athlete, not as a tourist.
Sure.
And so I have a huge list of places that I'd like to go back to one day to actually, see what the inside of Luca looks like, not just from the outside racing around its, the brick walls. In Italy, France, there's just so many places I'd like to go back. And sure, it definitely takes a toll on, on a relationship too, because there's so much travel involved. But at the same time, I don't think I would change anything. I wouldn't do anything different, because it's where my passion is, and I get to do what I love every single day.
Enough said. Thank you for joining us on Cycling Illustrated. This is Meredith Miller. She's a superstar in the sport, and we love to support women cycling, as you know, and a lot of people look up to you. Do you have anything else that you want to add?
Boy. That's an open-ended question. No, I just, like I said, I've been in the sport for 14 years, and I just, I wouldn't change anything for the world. I really love what I do, and I love all the people that I've gotten to meet over the years and the relationships that I've made. And, and certainly it's, I'm probably one of the few older women in the peloton these days. And so, retirement is in the picture. But it's hard to step away from the sport, because it is a beautiful sport, and it's hard to step away from, the close friends and sort of family that I've made over the years. And so I just, in light of everything that's been going on in the news recently, I just appreciate the support and the encouragement and everything that I've had and received over the last 14 years, and I hope to see that continue to grow as we get through this kind of difficult time in the sport.
Well, thank you very much. You're a sweetheart, and you are definitely one of the leaders that a lot of the women can look up to. So thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Sure, thanks.